everybody, welcome to the channel. It's the Bulldog. I want to take time to thank you all for coming in. Smash that like button, headbang on that button, get my channel out there, subscribe, like, send it out there. Alright, this stream, I've just been going through different things. My allergies been killing me the past couple days. And I've just been going through my CDs, the ones behind here, and the 3 or 4 over there, and the one over there. And I told my girl, Mrs. Metalhead, my person behind the scenes, just go grab some CDs random, you know. So I just started grabbing a couple things, and she grabbed some stuff. I got about, I don't know, about 15, 20, just stack of different bands, random ones, you know. I looked at a couple of them radio. It's like, oh my god, I haven't listened to that in a while. I haven't listened to that in a long time. So, but yeah, this is just gonna be a random, where I just basically grab a disc and just talk about it. You know, it could be any genre of metal for that matter. There's a few that might have people remember things of, you know, that time in metal. First of all, I gotta thank Metal Miners. Thank you. He sent me 2 tapes. One I didn't open yet. That one I opened, I just listened to it. E. Lalick, right? Yeah. If I butchered the name, I'm sorry. E. Alec. That sounds better to me. So yeah, great tape. I didn't hear these guys. I do have their 2023 release, Karen's, I think it's called, on iTunes. I remember I saw it, I was like, ooh, because of the Iron Maiden, and everybody knows I'm a huge Maiden fan. But yeah, great album. I've been playing these guys the past couple of days, actually. Sorry about that. You say to make a couple tapes, a couple keychains, stickers. I love stickers, guys, because that's one of my next streams. I'm gonna do a walk around of the entire studio and my collection. I got a bunch of stickers on my stereo setup, my speakers. I got some on the racks of CDs too. I got some. I got a couple collectors that I follow on here. Classy Lonnie Metal, my boy. I got his stickers here. I got a couple other ones. I got a couple labels. And now also I got Metal Sinners. I just put that up over there on one of my speakers, and I got it on my tape deck back here. So, Metal Miners, appreciate you, man. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Okay, sorry about that. I dropped the sticker in the tape. Alright. When I get started, like I said, this is just random. It's just random CDs that we picked. Like I said, I just scanned through them really quick. Because a lot of times when I'll do something, I'll write things down that I have in my head that I want to say, and I'll write them down, you know. So that's why a lot of times you'll see me looking like this, because I like to be fresh with you know, in my head. So I'll take a pad on, I'll just scribble it down, just like scribble, and I'll circle it to make sure I touched on it about that band. But this, I'm just going for it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna remember a lot of things. But we get started. Like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. If you like this type of stuff, please smash that like button, raise your horns up, subscribe, share my channel. Like I said, I started doing my channel a month ago. It's going good. But yeah, please, if you like this type of stuff, I'm also on Instagram under the same name. Just follow me on there. But yeah, let's get started. Alright, first one I just grabbed. One of my favorite crossover bands, hardcore band, thrash bands, crossover. I think one of the originators of it, of that whole crossover scene back in the 80s. DRI, Dirty Rotten Imbeciles. This is the For a Kind album. I love this album. I think this album in general was more. They expanded themselves more on this record. Because remember, before you had Dealing with It, the crossover EP, um, the Dirty Rotten LP, which was like I think 22 songs. But they've been one of my favorite. Um, this came out '89, I think 90. No, I'm sorry, '88. If you remember, um, Suit and Tie Guy was one of the only videos they did back then. Was was on this record, um, and believe it or not, Suit and Tie Guy got a lot of play on MTV, Headbangers Ball, and also that other show that they did, Rock Kings, or whatever it was called back then. But that song got a lot of airplay for some reason. People gravitated towards that song. Um, no, that song "Suit and Tie Guy" was about the hedge funds on Wall Street, about the higher ups thinking they're better than everybody when really they're stealing from you. That they were stealing from banks. If anybody remembers a few years back, that Ponzi scheme with Bernie Madoff. That's when that happened. The first song I thought of was "Suit and Tie Guy." That was the first thing that popped in my head. But yeah, um, not a bad record. I actually enjoy this one. Like I said, I think this one, put them further out there for themselves, which I think is really good because DRI was always one of those bands that stayed the course. I think hardcore, the thrash elements in there, some punk. Um, Back then, like I was saying, they were part of that movement. You had COC, Corrosion Conformity. You had Ludacris coming out of New York. You had Crumbsuckers coming out of New York, who I absolutely love. Crumbsuckers and Ludacris. You had SOD. You had MOD. There were so many bands that fit that crossover, label. Then that brought two genres together, which I thought was great at the time and still is. Now it's like you got bands say like Toxic Holocaust, Warbringer, Municipal Waste. Trying to couple other bands at the top of my head. Iron Reagan, Power Trip. That all those bands are very similar, especially Municipal Waste, who I love. First time I saw Municipal Waste and Toxic Holocaust was, I gotta say, mid 2000s, I think it was, and I never heard of them. And I forgot who they were opening up for. And I went to see them, and they blew me away. I mean, there are very few bands that I don't know of, that I go see for the first time, and just blow me away. I remember I stocked up on merch that night. I think I got both their releases, their couple EPs by them. Yeah, but those two bands, and also Skeleton Witch. I'm sorry, Skeleton Witch too. Very thrashy type, crossover. But yeah, there's still bands that these guys helped, flourish. DRI, COC. They created that whole crossover genre, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt, especially mid '80s. They they came out a couple more albums, which were very, very good albums. Definition, I think the iconic one for them that really got them noticed even more was their '89 release. I think it was the one after this, Thrash Hard. They stayed low key. They're still going. I saw them back in oh god, I want to say early 2016. I think it was in Connecticut, and it was seeing them in 2016 compared to when I saw them back in think the very early '90s when I saw them. One of the first times I saw them, ever saw them, early '90s. I saw them in 2016. And it was just like being back, when I first saw them. Great, you know, um, just getting the crowd going. The classic circle pits, the stage diving. You know, Kurt is I think Kurt is an amazing lead singer. He really, really is. Um, Everybody knows what happened with Felix, the cancer. One of the best drummers ever. Um, but yeah, I think, like I said, these are all random discs I just pulled out of my collection without even looking. Me and Mrs. Metalhead just grabbed them. So, but yeah, DRI's been one of my favorites since I heard them. Since I heard Madman off of Dealing with It, which is another iconic album by them. Great crossover record. If you don't have Dealing with It, get it. These guys paved the way for a lot of crossover hardcore bands, in my opinion, that are around now. Like I said, I just named a few: Power Trip, Iron Reagan, Skeleton Witch, Municipal Waste, Warbringer. Bands along that line that are waving that middle flag. That's why a lot of people said, "Oh, thrash is dead." Really, you got these bands I just named that are putting out quality albums. It's a shame with Power Trip with Riley. Another one gone too soon. But they're still putting out, material. I hear there's talk out of their camp, out of Power Trip. They're going to be putting out a new record. I can't wait for that. Iron Reagan, the same thing. But yeah, it's bands from the '80s like DRI, COC, SOD, Ludachrist, Crumbsuckers, GBH, even, that paved the way for all these bands that have been around for 20 some odd years now. Keeping that metal going, keeping that old school thrash hardcore that whole crossover genre is going still. I think it's great for metal in general. But yeah, definitely, DRI, Four of a Kind, came out in '88. One of the absolute legends of crossover hardcore, in my opinion, and punk. Alright, next one. This band is so underrated. They only put out 2 albums. This came out in '98, I believe. Yeah, '97 or '98. Destiny's End. Album is called Breathe Deep the Dark. Absolute great power metal, progressive with some thrash elements. If you like Symphony X, Primal Fear, even Hallison Way, this definitely. Um, this does not have a bad track on it, in my opinion. Top to bottom, there's not one track that you could skip over. First time I heard them, I didn't know who they were. I picked this up. I was blown away by them. Absolutely blown away. Is it like a power metal, progressive, thrash elements? The vocals are very, very clean. Amazing guitar work and drum work and vocals on this record. Definitely one of my favorites right here. Even for that time, '98, where you had a lot of progressive bands and power bands. Excuse me, like you had the likes of Dream Theater, Fates Warning, Symphony X, Primal Fear. Kicking around, doing things. They fit right in with it. Queensryche, the same thing. But yeah, Camelot for that matter. Hammerfall. I'm gonna be. I'm waiting on the new Flotsam and Jetsam to get here. It should be getting here tomorrow, hopefully. I'm gonna be doing a special on. I'm be reviewing that album, the new Hammerfall, and the new Flesh God Apocalypse. So stay tuned for that. But definitely, if you guys haven't heard of this band, check them out. Destiny's End, Breathe Deep and Dark. This album came out in '88. They have 2 releases. This one and another one. It's somewhere right behind me. But yeah, definitely check them out if you're into, that Symphony X type power metal, progressive like Fate's Warning almost meets Primal Fear. Definitely check them out. Great vocals, very very overlooked, underrated band in my opinion. I mean, it's a shame they didn't go further. They put out 2 records, so definitely check them out. Destiny's End. This came out on Metal Blade in '98. Definitely. Next one, one of my favorite. I think one of the creators of death metal, hands down. I mentioned it during. I think I did during my benediction stream. I did. Possessed. This is Beyond the Gates. It also comes with the Eyes of Horror EP on this. Great album. I know everybody. We talk when you say Possessed, they automatically gravitate towards 7 Churches, which don't get me wrong, I love 7 Churches. I love everything about Possessed. I like this album. I love the EP on here. Their Eyes of Horror EP came out in I think '86, right before this record, I believe. This album's heavy. Jeff Becerra is one of my favorite vocals. He has that raspy, grungy, dirty type vocal that I absolutely love. Like when I first heard this record back in when it came out, I was blown away. Just pure heaviness of it. The breakdowns, the guitar work was even back then. Incidentally, you might remember Larry Lalonde was in here. Was in Possessed for I think 3 years. I think it was 84, 87. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Lalonde left. If you remember a band named Primus, that's Larry Lalonde. When Primus came out, and people realized it was Larry in that band. They're like, "How'd you go from that to this?" I don't mind Primus at all. I actually like Primus. I think Larry wanted to, expand himself, and he did. And whoever has seen Primus knows what I'm talking about. They're amazing live. And the first couple of Primus albums are pretty good albums. But getting back to this, a few of my favorites on this album, title track, of course, Seance, Dogfight, Phantasm, and then off that EP, the Eyes of Horror EP, My Belief. I absolutely love that song. That was my motto. It still is. That was my motto going through high school, and it still is today. But yeah, they just came out with Revelations, which I think in 2019, which I think is an incredible record by them. They are working on a new record too. Again, this is one band that I think was one of the first death metal bands ever. I mean, yeah, you had Venom back then, popping. You had early Creator, but they were part of that California scene that was mainly taken over for thrash, and Possessed had that death metal element, thrash metal element of them, and still do. They were part of that stretch in California that was just starting to pop off. Metallica, Testament, Slayer, even Exodus, Lost Rocket, LA Guns. They used to play them, Possessed, Slayer, Exodus, even Metallica. Used to play at a place in Los Angeles called Ruthie's Inn. If you know the documentary Murder in the Front Row, Possess is mentioned on that a lot. Exodus, Slayer, Lost Rocket, Metallica, Megadeth, everybody from out there was in that documentary. It's a very, very good documentary. I highly recommend it. I have it on DVD, and I also got the book on it. I'll put it in the description. But yeah, Possess has been one of my favorite for since I first heard them. I remember the first song I heard by them. It might have been off of Seven Churches. It might have been Pentagram, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, definitely one of the one of the legendary albums, if not the legendary death metal album, in my opinion. Jeff Becerra still going strong. You know, I saw him in concert one time. I died to go see him again. You know, I saw them on here live shows. Amazing, top to bottom set, just amazing. But yeah, definitely. If you guys don't have this album, get it, and the EP. Uh, um, the Eyes of Horror. Sorry, my mind has been blank. But definitely one of the forefathers of death metal, and you can say even black metal too. With them, they had all the elements, especially Seven Churches. That that first record had all the elements. You had thrash, you had death metal, you had black metal. You know, so definitely check these guys out. If you don't know, you gotta know. You know, especially the younger crowd that's just getting into it. Check these guys out. All right, next one. One of my favorite bands of all time, Metal Church. One of the best lead singers, period. Mike Howe, rest in peace. A great album. Remember, this got a lot of airplay on MTV back in the when it came out on Headbangers Ball. And if they played metal at night after 10 o'clock, of course, like Beavis and Butthead, if you remember, they got a lot of airplay. In my opinion, not a bad track, an amazing album. You remember Mike Howe before he came to Metal Church, what, 80, 88, I think he joined, 89? He was in a band called Heretic for like 2 records with him. And he was amazing. Heretic. Amazing band, Heretic. Check them out also. That's Mike Howe's first band, Heretic. Check them out. But yeah, great album, top to bottom. Not a bad track, especially in '92. In this album, 92, I think it was 91. Yeah, I was on 92. This came out on Epic Records. Not a bad track, top to bottom. You had Date or Poverty. That was getting continuous play, believe it or not, on MTV back when it came out, especially in the 90s. And Beavis and Butthead, too. Great songs. My favorite one is a couple of Final Word, In Harm's Way, In Due Time, you know, and then, of course, Date with Poverty. But remember, he left Metal Church for a little bit, and he came back in 2015, I believe it was, because their album that he came back on, the 11 or 10 album, came out in 16. He was on that record. I remember when they were putting up on Facebook, and actually Instagram too, I believe it was, about getting a new lead singer, and everybody kept saying Mike Howe, bring Mike back, bring Mike back, bring Mike back. And I think Vanderhoof knew what he was doing. I think the entire band at that time knew what they were doing by putting out there that they're looking for a lead singer. Sorry, the camera keeps self-adjusting. Sorry. I think they knew what they were doing when they were, you know, teasing us, the fans, about getting a lead singer. And I remember they had that petition online. to sign if you want Mike Howe back, and it got enormous amount of responses from us. I signed it. Um, I think I might have even made up a fake name back then and signed it too. Um, it's a shame what happened to Mike. Uh, it really, really is. What happened to Mike, I can relate to. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but I had my demons with that. It's not a fun place to be at all, to say the least. Um, Not knowing what's gonna happen to you, you know, and not thinking that you can get help, not thinking that there's anybody there that can help. Um, I don't want to get too into it, but if you know somebody going through some things like that, help them. Even if they push you away, help them. You could save their life. I know. I finally got the help back then, you know, and it shows that person that you do actually care. So yeah, but Mike Howe, rest in peace, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, frontman. One of my personal favorites all time, all time. Like I said, great record. Um, they're working on another one. Um, they did come out with Mike Howe's final show. It's called The Final Sermon. That just came out. I got that. I highly recommend that album. Get that album. It's Mike Howe's last recording. It sounds very, very good. It was done on the 2019 tour. I saw him on that tour. Um, Amazing. You know, I seen Mike. God, a couple times. The times that I saw Metal Church, he was in the band. I think I saw Metal Church 3 times. I think. I would have loved to have seen them. You know, 88, 89. But I did catch them when I was in high school, which I was very happy about. And then I saw them in 2019. You know, and then we're on. The new lead singer in Church is phenomenal. I think he fits the band. I can't remember how many other bands this cat has been in, but he's been in a number of other bands. But he fits Metal Church in my opinion. You know, everybody says it's not the same without Mike Howe. You know, that's like saying it's not the same, you know, without Jeff Hanneman in Slayer, which it wasn't. You know, but you have somebody that knew Jeff's notes that played it, and the guy I forgot his name right now, Mark Lopez, I think his name is. I think it's Mark Lopez. I'm most positive on that. He's a phenomenal lead singer. The the first record that they did with him came out a couple years ago. I like that album. Um, I think I put that as a comeback of the year album last year when it came out. Um, yeah, Metal Church is one of those bands that just stayed the same. You know, yeah, a couple of their albums were iffy, but they really didn't put out really bad record in my opinion. You know, yeah, they got the classics. You know, the first 3. You know, Metal Church records are iconic, legendary. I think the first song I ever heard by them was "Start the Fire." I love that song. Love that album. Heavy, raw, very good album. But definitely, this one, I'm sure people remember this back in the 90s. Definitely, Human Factor, one of the best, not really speed, but like a thrash, very heavy, metal-ish album. The guitars are great. Vanderhoof Hoof has been one of my favorite guitarists, you know, forever. But definitely, another walk down memory lane. Metal Church, rest in peace, Mike. Another one, oh god. Alright, I think this album made this band pop out of underground, but they still maintained it, you know, being under that radar and still going. Nuclear Assault, Handle with Cares came out '89. Um, Danny's still in the band. You remember Glenn also released two albums with his side project CIA, which I have right behind me, right over here. Um, I love this album. I love this album when it came out. It's heavy. It's thrash metal. Um, Another band that just stayed that path. I know a lot of people, for me especially, my favorite album by them is Game Over. Um, the Survive EP, great stuff. I mean, they had some of the, they had some of their albums out there that they put out, caught some attention back then. But definitely this album came out and I think it caught a lot of people off guard because just how good it was. This is another band, another album, believe it or not, that got a lot of play on Headbangers Ball. Because you gotta remember, back in the day, the only way metalheads could really see any videos was on MTV Headbangers Ball, or if it was Beavis and Butthead or that show Dario, whatever the hell that was. That's the only way we saw it. And music-wise, it was the fanzines. If you guys remember Metal Maniacs, they had that little section in Metal Maniacs called Shorts. It was basically pen pals. You could write in, your name, your address, the bands you're into, this and that, and you just put it out there. Once it got published in Metal Maniacs, you started getting stuff in the mail for free. And I'm like, full albums from people everywhere. And then you start getting letters. Then you just correspond with them. It was great. I was in Metal Maniacs, I think, 2 or 3 times. So yeah, I miss Metal Maniacs. I miss Catherine Ludwig, the editor. Catherine, I still love you. One of the sweetest people and best writers ever. I met Catherine at I forgot who it was. I want to say it was Deicide. I went to see, and she was there. She was doing interviews with the band. This is like late '90s, I think it was. It was like '97, '98 in that era. But yeah. Sorry, I got off topic. But Nuclear Assault is it thrash metal at its best. Yeah, remember Danny is also in Brutal Truth. He's been in a couple other bands too. He was in SOD, the original SOD with Billy Milano, Charlie Benante, Scott Ian from Anthrax, and MOD. But Search and Seizure, one of my favorite tracks off this album. It's heavy, raw, torture tactics. Critical Mass, that was the title that got like a lot of airplay on Headbangers Ball. I remember laughing at that video because he walks into a pole and he knocks himself out. But yeah, and then the effing Wake Up song. Yeah, Nuclear Assault was underrated, big time in my opinion, overlooked. I would definitely put them in like the top 10 favorite thrash bands, though. I'll put them in that category of bands that paved the way, led the way back in the '80s. That kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I've seen them a few times live. Great band live, absolutely amazing band live. Crowd gets into it. They get the crowd into it. Definitely, if you guys don't have any by them, look them up, please. They're still one of my favorite thrash metal bands, speed metal bands of all time. Like I said, Glenn Evans did a side project called CIA. They put out, I think, 2 albums. I got them behind me somewhere over here. But definitely check them out. Again, not a bad album. I like the album personally. I think it's one of the best thrash ones made. And I think Nuclear Assault just stayed that path. Didn't fall off like a lot of bands did, especially in the '90s. They just stayed that course, you know. But definitely, Nuclear Assault, Handle with Care, check them out. Next one, like I said, these are all random. I just grabbed ones without, you know, me and my behind the scenes person, who if you guys are watching, some of you guys might know. She's my fiance, but she works behind the scene. She was in one of my other streams where I did that pop-up vinyl video, which incidentally, I'm going to a couple pop-ups, vinyl and CD pop-ups. There's one here I'm going to in New York, and there's a couple in Jersey that I'm also going to that I will be live streaming from. I think one is coming up in October, and there's one in December also. But I will definitely keep you guys posted on that. I'll do a premiere of it or whatever. This one of my favorite bands I ever heard. This one came out in '83. This is Steeler. If anybody remembers this band, you had Yngwie Malmsteen on drums, on guitars. I'm sorry, on guitars. You had the legendary lead singer Ron Keel on guitars and vocals. Yes, and also Ron Keel was in his solo band called Keel at the time. You had Rick Fox on backing vocals. If I remember correctly, Rick Fox. I want to say he had a solo project too going at one time back in the '80s. I may be mistaken on that name though. But if anybody remembers this album, legendary album, this is like one of the first time I heard Yngwie. Yngwie was in Steeler. Yngwie was in Alcatraz, Rising Force, number of side projects. You guys can, people can say what they want to say about Yngwie, think what they want to think about him. Did a lot of things he do in his past, yes, questionable. But he's still one of the best guitarists, and I mean the best guitarist out there, in my humble opinion. Like I said, he had his issues with stuff back in the day, but he's an amazing guitarist in my eyes and in my opinion. And I think a lot of people will, say the same thing about him. But this album came out in '83. If you guys don't remember this album, Cold Day in Hell, Backseat Driver, No Way Out, the song that I first heard of by them, Hot on Your Heels. My brother had this on vinyl when it first came out. This came out on Shrapnel Records, which I don't think they're still around. They might have been bought up by EMI or somebody, or Island. I'm not 100% sure about that. But it's on Shrapnel Records. On the Rocks, Down to the Wire. I think one of the best 80s power thrash almost type feel, like a progressive power metal band back then. Very, very guitar oriented, especially with Malmsteen being in it. Ron Keel, I think Ron Keel had his own type of vocal, which I thought was great. I think Keel put out like 3 or 4 solo albums. I think Steeler put out like 4, I believe 5 albums if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna look that up. Like I said, by just pulling the C's like I did. Normally, if I'm gonna do the stream, I'll things I want to say, I'll write down, so I don't forget, what I want to say. But this I just, said hell with it. But yeah, I'm sure people, back in the day are gonna remember this album. It came out in '83, Shrapnel Records. Very '80s, very, very old school power thrash. Very old school power thrash. Came out at Shrapnel. I think it's like one of the first time I really heard Yngwie, because I had to go back when he was at Alcatraz, because he was bouncing back and forth between Alcatraz and Steeler at that time. Then he left there and started doing Rising Force. My brother was a big Malmsteen fan, big Rising Force fan. He, like I say, he had his issues back in the day, as did a lot of musicians. Um, Especially, you know, the drugs, the hands-on women. You know, I'm not gonna get too much in that, but he was still one of the most phenomenal guitar players. You know, even to this day. You know, so but definitely, if you guys can remember, 1983 Steeler is the self-titled record. Um, it might be on here, like a think about it on YouTube, and also on iTunes, probably more than likely. This is one band that I do want to get their complete catalog from start to finish. As with Keel, I had one or two kills, but um, it, I lost it in a move, or somebody stole it from me back whenever. But Keel and Steeler, I would definitely pick up their albums. You know, if you're into that old '80s, '90s feel, thrash, you know, that early, you know, like that I call it, like I said, like a heavy power thrash metal, you know, feel to them. Very, very for that time. Very, I think it was even then. I think they were very, you know, overlooked in a way. But definitely, check them out. Self-titled record, Steeler off from Shrapnel '83. Check them out. Next one. These guys need no introduction. I mentioned them during my last stream when I did the Benediction catalog. Napalm Death, my favorite record by them. This one I did grab because I was listening to it the other day. Utopia Banished, my favorite record by them. I think this record propelled them into getting noticed even more when it came out in 92, 93, 92. I saw them on tour for this record on the Campaign for Musical Destruction tour. When that came out, like 91, like 92, 93-ish. I've seen Napalm a number of times. Last time I saw them was on the Slayer Farewell tour. And a lot of people there, I would just stand there watching them. I'm like, don't you guys know who who this is? The guy's been doing this for 30 some odd years, if not longer. You know, they're the pioneers of grindcore. And, period. I said it before about them. Grindcore, between Napalm Death, Carcass, Benediction, Benediction, Righteous Pigs, Agoraphoric, Nosebleed. There's so many grindcore bands that led the way. You know, and there's grindcore bands that are out today that you hear a lot of Napalm in them. 200 Stab Wounds. That new 200 Stab Wounds is pure grind. In gore, it's incredible. Pathology. Unmerciful. Livity. Another one. You know, that porn that porn grindcore, as I call it. There's just a number of bands that are called Pharmacist, who I highly recommend. If you haven't heard these guys, check them out. Pharmacist. I have a couple of their albums over there. Grindcore. If you like the old Napalm, old Carcass, definitely check that band out. This one, Utopia Banished, it's definitely one of my favorite records off them. Period. I mean, Eye of Stain, Discordants, World Keeps Turning. Great stuff. I've been a Napalm Death fan my entire life. I love Barney. I love Napalm. I'm working on doing their discography. I'm trying to figure if I need anything, but I don't. They've been one of my favorites forever. I mean, forever. I think the first time I heard them was probably 1989 or 90. Now, mind you, they've been out since about 86, 87, as had Carcass. Um, their their EPs were very underground, and again, much like Carcass, they didn't get noticed really until the 90s. You know, again, Head Banger's Ball, uh, World Keeps Turning will be on there. Suffering and Children was on there a lot. Again, they had them on uh, Beavis and Butthead. And if you guys remember Beavis and Butthead, how they were. Um, but yeah, back then, again, the only way you could hear them is if you knew of them. The radio, uh, fanzines, the magazines. You know, that's why I said one of the last streams. I said I liked getting the compilations back then of up and coming bands or bands that were up but you didn't really hear. And back then, Nuclear Blast, you know, was putting out a phenomenal song comps. Um, Eric was putting out some insane comps. That's where Napalm first really got their first signing was Eric Records. You know, with Carcass. There's just so many great bands from them. You know, Napalm still leads. You know, with the death metal, grindcore. Yeah, they're. I call them the corporate death metal grindcore band. Barney doesn't, you know, stray with many politics, things like that. You know, that's what I think. That's what made Napalm Napalm, and what made Barney Barney. Their last recording was great. You know, people said that they slowed down a little bit. I'm like, slow down, or do you mean slow down, but as in heavier? Because there's a difference between slowing down and there's a difference between slowing down and getting heavier, which you could go 1,000 miles an hour and it'd be fast, or you could tone it down just a little bit and you could be heavy and still have that death metal hard sound. And yeah, I think this record has it all. Again, Napalm Death, Utopia Banished, one of my favorite, if not my favorite record by them, and one of my favorite death metal grindcore albums ever made. Definitely legends. Next one, Bolt Thrower. I think this is the reissue that I got. For those who don't know, my collection was stolen, so I did a complete rebuild. I was going through a dark time in my life back then. I'm not gonna get too into it, but a couple ex best friends of mine took it upon themselves to swipe things. Yeah. So everything I got behind me, the four wall units over there, all new. It's all rebuilt. All the stuff I got is total rebuild. 4,300, close to 4,300. So it's total rebuild. And this is the reissue of this. The original came out '89 of this. It's one of my, if not my favorite Bolt Thrower release. In Battle There Is No Law. Bolt Thrower's no band. I think they just, you know, stayed that path. Heavy death metal, almost like a grindcore in a way. They had all the elements of it. Again, Joe on bass, rest her soul, incredible bassist. You know, Carl on vocals. Again, this one, Psychological Warfare, my favorite track off this record. Insane. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. I think there was a cover on it. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been another EP. Psychological Warfare, Denial of Destiny, another track. Great one. Another band, in my opinion, one of the best death metal bands ever. People said that they sort of changed their style just a little bit towards the end. I don't think they did. Like I said, you know, you can play a 1,000 miles an hour, you know, but sometimes you just want to slow down a little bit and get heavier. And I think that's what they did. All right, a lot of people will say no. I think they did. Um, I think they had some of the most incredible breakdowns. The guitars, in my opinion, always were up. The vocals in his band, I loved. I still do. Um, I think I saw Bolt Thrower maybe once or twice back in the '90s. Another band I wish was still around today doing things, you know. Um, Especially for like the new breed of metalheads. If you guys want to get listen to old school death metal, Bolt Thrower, their entire catalog. But this is my favorite. This is one of their best albums in my opinion. In Battle There Is No Law. Banger, absolute banger of an album. Pick it up. Like I said, a new breed of metal. The youngins, or if even some people that are older that haven't heard of them or forgot about them, pick this record up. It's a must to have in your collection. I'm almost done. I got a few more. Like I said, today was just me and Mrs. Metalhead, my assistant behind the scenes. We just, she started picking records up. I think one or two of them she did on purpose because she likes them. And these are albums that I've been listening to for a couple days, and there's albums I haven't listened to in a while. And a couple that I mentioned, I just did. I totally forgot about. Next one, Cyclone Temple. Absolute amazing. I call it like a post thrash metal band. You guys remember this? They used to be called Znowhite, Znowhite. This is them. I think it was the lead singer and the guitarist that left Znowhite to form Cyclone Temple, and this came out '91, I believe. One of my favorite albums of all time. Underrated, overlooked in every aspect. Amazingly singer. His vocals. When I first heard him, I was struck by him. Great songs, in my opinion. In my opinion, there's not a bad track on this album, and I mean whatsoever. Cyclone Temple. I hate, therefore I am. A must-have in your collection. They put out My Friend the Lonely after this, and I think it was an EP. I believe it was an EP. They are reissuing their stuff also. I'm not sure what label they're on now, if it's indie, if they're doing it, but they are reissuing their albums. I have this one and their second one behind me, out there somewhere, right there, I think. But definitely, if anybody has this record, you know what I'm talking about when I say underrated, overlooked, forgotten. This is definitely one of those albums that is a must-have in your collection, hands down. They're I think they have some of the best power ballads ever, especially for a metal band. Especially back then, like, a lot of labels were pushing that power ballad. I think they stole it with that. Yeah, not a bad track, in my opinion. Not an absolute great album. I think a forgotten album a lot of times. Overlooked. Again, I know I keep saying that, but definitely overlooked. Cyclone Temple. I hate, therefore I am. Get this record. It's a must. Check them out. They are on YouTube. You must probably find this on iTunes or Bandcamp. You might have it. Definitely check them out. It's well deserved. Next one is Behemoth. I've been listening to this album the past couple of days. This is his second album, Grom. Um, Pagan metal, cult metal, black metal, gnarly. Nergal's vocals on this are just insane, very deep. Um, this is I've been a Behemoth fan since this record, um, and ever since. I got all their stuff right here. I seen Behemoth 5, 6 times. Each time impressed me all the time. Never a bad show. A lot of people didn't like their last one. Um, I Load You at Your Darkest. I think it's a good album. Again, with Behemoth, death metal bands, black metal bands, you know, I still call them pagan metal. Um, they back then, even then, they had all the elements. The early stuff was a lot of dark and black metal, which I like the dark and black metal. Um, it's angrier. The vocals are a lot meaner sounding, deeper. It actually grabs you by your throat and just punches you in the jaw, basically. Um, this one came out, I want to say, 91, I believe, 1991. It's called it's Grom. Um, just ooh, I lost the cover. That's the CD. That's it right there. It's called Grom. Um, they just reissued um, Into the Forest, their first record, which I have over here. Um, I my a few of my favorites by them besides this one, Delima 6, um, the Satanist. Um, in my opinion, they stated yes, they started to get. They came out of the underground, but they're still, in my opinion, the death metal juggernaut of the entire of the scene. They're a powerhouse. They've always been a beast, in my opinion. They've always been a force to be reckoned with. I saw them 5, maybe 6 times. Each time was just, them being behemoths. Yeah, they've added more to their, their stage show. A little bit more, small pyros. Because I think if they're playing at a small club, you really can't do it. But if you're playing, at a good sized venue, like an amphitheater or something like that, or when they play over at Vakken, they could do it. They've come a long way. A lot more people know them now than back in the '90s when they were very, very underground. Like I said, when I first heard them, I was blown away by them. The same way I think a lot of us were when a lot of us first heard death metal back then, and the grindcore, and then when you heard black metal, it was like, whoa, what in the hell is this? That screeching, of the guitars, the screeching, almost screaming of the vocalist. Or the gal, it was just raw, just raw vocals, deep, dark, sinister type vocals. And he still has it today. I will still put him up, as one of my favorite death metal vocalists. And even along the lines of early black metal, definitely. If you guys remember this, Behemoth Grom. What was, like I said, today's just random, random albums. But definitely, I was listening to this a couple weeks ago, and it like now, doing this, all these albums are taking me back, to the '90s and like early 2000s or whatever. You know, late 80s, very, very early 90s. Um, Another one of my favorite hardcore bands from here in New York, VOD, Vision of Disorder. This is their first one. Um, Great hardcore. Um, Sick of It All type, Marauder, who I'll get to in a minute. Um, 90, when it came out in 96, hardcore was, was popping, much like it was in late 80s. It was popping. Um, it's no secret, I absolutely love the hardcore scene in New York. Hardcore started here in New York. People could say it started out in LA and this and that. No, it started right here in New York. Whether it be between Queens, Brooklyn, whatever, it started right here in New York in the city. Back then you had people, the stage diving, the crossover, that's where it started. The underground scene, the hardcore scene. You go into a place, there's a sign that says, stage dive, crowd surf at your own risk. At your own risk. Um, Crowd surf, stage dive, mosh, at your own risk. And there's some places that say no stage diving, no crowd surfing, no moshing. They're not going to stop 600 people from moshing or even surfing for that matter. They could try, but it never happens. But yeah, VOD, one of my favorite. And being into that whole, New York, hardcore scene, crossover scene. Sick of It All, one of my favorite hardcore bands. Oh, incidentally, I think VOD and Marauder are playing on a benefit show for Lou Kohler of Sick of It All. For those you don't know, Lou Kohler came down with cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer about a month ago. Cancer sucks. Bottom line. I'm sure all of us have had somebody close to us. I've had 3 people close to me pass away from cancer. My father passed away from cancer in 06. So yeah, they're doing a benefit show for Kohler of Sick of It All. I think VOD is on it. I want to say Marauder and a couple others are on this. They also have a fund going around, like a GoFundMe page, to help Kohler out with any medical bills. I've donated already to it. I might do it again. A lot of people don't get it with the hardcore, especially being from New York. Yeah, there's metal, but the hardcore scene has always been up there. You got your thrash with Anthrax and Gorilla Biscuits and along that line. But the hardcore scene in the tri-state area itself, always been phenomenal. Intense. These guys, this album is a monster album. A few of my favorites of this album. Suffer, DTO, Ways to Destroy One's Ambition, Liberation, Viola, which is an absolute killer track. If you want, check out some early hardcore. It came out in 96. Very, very good album. Very, very good hardcore album. They've been out since, they've been out since late 80s, early 90s. They just came out with a new one a couple years ago. It was like 2018, 19, I think it was. 2020 it came out. So they're still putting stuff out. They're going in the studio to work on another one. I can't wait for that. Definitely check them out. Vision of Disorder, VOD, right here from Queens, New York. Wave that hardcore flag. Again, guys, this is just like random things I pulled today. Nothing was set in stone with anything. It was just albums I just pulled from my collection. I am working on a couple of things that I'm going to be doing. Um, I'm working on um, some of my favorite albums from 1991. Because I think 91 was an insane year for metal and death metal. You know, I'm working on that. I'm working on a couple of discographies out that I want to do. Um, I'm also working on uh, like metal came out of you know Britain. You know that old that old heavy metal that came out of Europe that came over here. I'm working on something like that with a few bands. Um, I'm also working on um, my favorite black metal albums. I love the black metal that's come out of Norway. I've always been a huge fan of, that scene. Um, all the Norwegian black metal. I'm very picky with black metal nowadays. To me, it sounds repetitive. A lot of it. Um, I liked I like the darkened black metal. You know, the 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 heavier black metal. Um, yeah, but I'm working on something like that. I'm working on a few more discographies. Again, I also have a couple places that I'm going to live. Uh, where we live streaming from. Um, it's a vinyl CD pop up. Um, it's a vinyl CD expo. It's one's in Trenton, Jersey. Um, I'm trying to go to the day that War is going to be there. War is going to be performing and also um, signing autographs and stuff, both in costume and out of costume. So I definitely want to go to that one. Let me get back into this. I got a few more. One of my favorite Testament albums came out in '90. I'm sorry, yeah, '90. I think it's one of the albums that a lot of people overlook, in my opinion. Souls of Black. I love the cover of this. Um, the album is phenomenal. From the start to beginning, it's his classic Testament. I think this is where Chuck Billy started to find his vocal range a little more. I think he got more melodic with this record. Um, just phenomenal, top to bottom. I think this is some of Skolnick's best work, in my opinion. Um, I know a lot of people lean towards some of their earlier stuff. Um, but I think this album gets overlooked. Um, I think everybody wanted a second Practice What You Preach, which, like a lot of bands that put out that great album and Practice What You Preach, I think Practice What You Preach is their opus, is one of their top albums, without a doubt. But Souls of Black, I think it's a great album. It's overlooked. Um, Malpractice, The Legacy, Souls of Black title track. I love that title track. Um, Facing the Sky, it's top to bottom. It's 1990s thrash. You know, um, like I said, I think this is where they started to go a little bit more melodic than they were. I mean, they always had that melodic to them, especially guitars. Skolnick can hang with with anybody. I think Skolnick is one of my top ones of all time. But I think this is where they started to get more melodic. Um, and then, as you guys know, came they started to get a little bit more mainstream after this record. Um, and then with Demonic, they went full on death metal, um, which a lot of people frowned on it. I didn't mind it. I actually liked that record by them, Demonic. I think it's I think it's something Chuck Billy wanted to do. Um, to showcase his, what he can do. That album was heavy too. But I like that they went back to that classic Testament sound that they've always been accustomed to, that everybody loves. I've seen Testament many times, many times. Chuck's one of the best frontmen. Skolnick is absolutely a legend. A legend. One of the top guitarists, if not the top, for me. He's an absolute legend. Definitely, I know I'm like a broken record, but if you're in the Testament, this is a must album. I call this their Diamond in the Rough. Great album. Top to bottom is really not a bad track at all. Next one, another New York band, Suffocation. My favorite album by them, Pierce from Within. Grindy, heavy, ugly, terrifying at parts. Guitar work is amazing. I know Frank retired, which he's a legend. If anybody has seen him, he's a great frontman. But their new one is not bad. The new one's pretty damn good, in my opinion. It really, really is. This album and their self-titled album, Suffocation, two of my favorite albums by them. I know my top one by them of all time is Effigy of the Forgotten. That was the first time I heard them, was on that record, was Jesus Wept, and I had to go back to get that EP. That album alone is grindcore. That album alone is the top grindcore album for me, hands down. I'll put that right with Righteous Pigs in a heartbeat. This one is close. This one is one of their death metal masterpieces. It really is. I missed them on this tour, which I'm mad about. Terrence on guitar, another one. That's one thing about Suffocation. Everybody knew of them. For that, boom, boom, that hard. Sorry, I have mixed noises. But if anybody has seen them in concert live, you guys know what I'm talking about. The hardness of it, the heaviness, that heavy melodic guitars that they've always had. Outstanding in my opinion. Do I wish he'll come back for another tour with them? Yeah, Frank. Oh, well, a heartbeat. I wish he would, but he did for so many years. Frank's a legend. And only a few of us can actually say that we saw, his chop, which is iconic for Frank, called the Frank Chop. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite albums. Suspended in Tribulation, Thrones of Blood. I love that track. Brood of Hatred, I think one of their most underrated tracks off this record. Heavy, pulverizing, smacks you in the mouth, kicks you in the head, wakes you up a little bit. Again, probably next to Obituary and Malevolent Creation, hell, even Deicide for that matter, probably one of my top 5 ever bands, death metal bands, not total, but death metal bands. Definitely my top 5. Definitely probably my top 20 in albums, which I'm going to be doing. That's another thing I'm working on slowly. I'm doing like a top 30 or top 40 favorite death metal, just death metal, not thrash or anything, death metal albums of all time. Like I said, there's some things that I got back, but I got them as like a pack, like Nuclear Blast started to release the Nuclear Blast Years, and it was like a 5-pack. I got a couple albums I want to pull from there, and people are like, "So what? Just say them." You know. I tell people, well, I don't have the ones I want, the original. They're like, "You have it though. You have it on that pack. Mention it. Big deal. You know, your stuff got stolen. You're replacing it. Show them. You know." So, yeah, I'm the type of person that wants to show the original as much as I can, which I have a lot of originals, but things got stolen from me. So look at I got all the original suffocations. So yeah, but I will be doing a best of like I'll do like a top 40 or top 50 best my personal favorite death metal albums of all time. I'm working on like I said, I'm working on a bunch of other things. I'm After I put this one up, I might do another video, just a walk around of my setup and everything. Um, my gimbal, I didn't plug it in, so that's dead again. I got to charge that back up, and I got a new gimbal also that I got to charge up too. So yeah, I got two gimbals. I forgot I ordered one, so when this one came, I was gonna send it back, and my girl's like, "No, keep it. You can have one that you use, keep one for a backup." So, not, you know, nothing wrong with two gimbals. So, but back on topic again. My favorite band's favorite albums by them, definitely hard, heavy, smacks you in the mouth. If you don't have this album, get it. Pierce from Within, 95 release, I believe it was. Yes, 1995. One of my favorite by them. One of my favorite death metal albums. Period. Pick this album up. Next one, another band that set their own style, set their own way, set their own style. A lot of people didn't like them at the time. A lot of people hated them. A lot of people loved. I've always loved Suicidal Tendencies. Lights, Camera, Revolution, one of my favorite records by them. Next to Join the Army. This came out 91, 90, yeah, 89 and 90. You Can't Bring Me Down, Lost Again, Alone, Give It Revolution, Get Whacked. Some of your money is about the church stealing money from people, wanting money just because they're an organization, which you see a lot of that. I'm not going to get too much into religion and politics, but you guys know where, come out in 1990. These guys put out some of the best videos. I Saw Your Mommy, Institutionalized with Mikey with the Pepsi. Remember that song? I love that song. That was one of the first songs that got me into Suicidal Tendencies. Was Institutionalized, I Saw Your Mommy, War Inside My Head, just a bunch. Join the Army, Possessed to Skate, a bunch. Suicidal Failure, Suicidal for Life. Another band that was doing their thing out in LA at the time. You had the punk mixed in with that. You had the funk, some thrash elements, hardcore definitely. Suicidal Tendencies is one of those bands that combined everything, and I love Suicidal Tendencies. I've been a fan of them since Institutionalized, when that came out, when I first heard that. Their last one they put out wasn't a bad album. It really wasn't. I've seen Suicidal a few times live, and the energy that comes out from them on stage is phenomenal. Yes, Robert Trujillo is in Metallica now. We all know that. He was a namestay with Suicidal. He was one of the original members of ST back in the day. Like I said, Suicidal, just started just paved their way. You know, they had the, you know, Chicano feel. You know, back then no one wanted, you know, Chicanos playing metal. Well, come on now. I mean, I think Suicide's one of the best bands out there, especially that, you know, their style, that that funky stuff, the breakdown, you know how they do it. Um, if anybody remembers, Mike Muir did a side project called Infectious Grooves. Um, I got their first album over here. I think Infectious Grooves was an awesome band. It was a funky band. It was like a punk, funk, you know, type. Um, they did their own thing, you know, and it was, I think it was just a offspin of Suicidal. Um, I think Suicidal put out some amazing, amazing material throughout their entire discography, their entire career. Um, Especially back in the '90s. You know, '90s they had some great records, including this one that you know came out for them. But I think this one, Lights Camera Revolution, was the one that really put them up there. Um, and then De- Deja Vu Feel Like Shit album, that you know propelled them also with those tracks on that record. Um, you know, and the bands that they opened up for back in the '90s, you know, they opened up for big names back in the '90s. You know, they opened up for Slayer back in the '90s. They opened for Anthrax. Hell, they opened for Pantera back in the '90s. Number of bands. They opened up for Priest a few times. Uh, Megadeth took them out on tour with them a few times in the '90s. Hell, I think Megadeth took them out on tour with them a couple times in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me. Um, yeah, but David, Mike Muir is Mike Muir. He's a funny dude. You know, great singer. He's a great frontman. You know, keeps the band going, keeps the crowd into it. Oh, definitely. Again, another album that just pops in my mind. Um, Definitely. If you guys remember this album, remember them, check these guys back out. Like I said, guys, today's just one of those, you know, streams where I just pulled random albums and just pulled them without even thinking. Just look at bang, bang, bang. But definitely, Suicidal Tendencies, ST for life. Right. I got a few more. There's one. There's one I'm gonna save for the end. I see it right here. I'm saving it for the end. Another band that I fell in love with. I had to go back one album when I first heard them. Solitude Eternus. Beyond the Crimson Horizon. I love this album. It's heavy. Um, like a heavy doom power metal band. Um, Robert Lowe is an excellent. I love Robert Lowe. His vocals are tremendous. Yes, remember he was in Candlemass for a few records with them. Uh, and I believe he took over in I want to say Exhorder for a little bit. I believe it was Exhorder for like a minute. Um, but he was in Candlemass for a little bit. He took over that. But I think his baby has been always Solitude Eternus. Um, One of my favorite records by them. Um, Very doom type, very heavy, melodic at times. The vocals are phenomenal. Um, I first heard this. When I first heard this, I had to go back to their first record. But this one has always been my favorite release by them. Very heavy, doomy type. Seed of the Desolate, my favorite track off the album. The Hourglass, that was just heavy. I mean, heavy, heavy. Um, came out. This one came out in '92. The first one came out. I think the first one came out was '91, I believe, or '90. But I had to go back to that album. I have all their stuff. I've seen them once or twice. Um, one of the times I did see them, they had the gargoyles on the stage, which became part of their setup. The gargoyles' eyes would light up ready. They'll blow out steam, smoke out of their mouth. It was built-in smoke machine. Um, Phenomenal live, very good band live. No, I'm sorry. Not it just came to me again. I'm sorry. Um, it wasn't X-Order. I'm sorry. I got my bands mixed up. When he was in Trouble, when he took over for Trouble for a little bit. Um, yeah. Um, he was phenomenal in that. I think he put out one record with Trouble, which good album. That's another band I love. Believe it or not, even though they're Christian metal, that was a no-no for a long time with metalheads. But I say whatever to that. I've been a big fan of Trouble, big fan of Trouble. That's why when I heard Robert Lowe was going to do some Trouble, I was like, oh, if he fits right in with them, you know. I think he did an amazing job when he was at Candlemass. Amazing job when he was at Candlemass. He fit right in with Candlemass. I always say, if you like Candlemass, you'll love these guys. Very similar, very, very similar to Candlemass, and I absolutely love Candlemass. They put out, I think, 5, 6 albums, I believe. I might be off by one, but definitely. If you guys don't remember these guys, check them out. Solitude Aeternus, Seed the Desolate, came out in '92. It's one of their best ever albums. This was one album when I got my stuff back and started collecting again. I made sure I got this. Definitely, I was just playing this the other day, and I just left it out, and I just grabbed it. Definitely. This one, like I say, if you like Candlemass, St. Vitus, definitely without a doubt, St. Vitus. In Mourning, a little bit. Trying to remember some other bands that are close. Memento Mori, a little bit. You'll like them. Like, definitely, guys, check these guys out. Solitude Aeternus. Like I said, if you like Doom, heavy Doom, with a little bit of melodic and thrash in there, much like Candlemass, check them out. You'll definitely like these guys. Alright, I got a few more. There's going to be 2 that I'm going to leave for the end. I just saw what's here, but there's 2 I'm going to leave for the very end. Alright, another band from New York, from Queens. Another band, hardcore, like a crossover thrash type from Queens. Marauder, Master Killer. Great album, great band. They're also doing that benefit show for Lou Kohler of Sick of It All. These guys are phenomenal. So this album dropped in '95. Great album. Amazing record by these guys. They got like 2 or 3 albums out and an EP. I got them over there somewhere. Title track of this record is absolutely amazing. Downfall of Christ is another one. Heaviness of it. Like I said, they're much like the guy just said, Vision of Disorder, VOD. Same area, New York hardcore. These guys are a little bit more. If you like Hatebreed, another band who I absolutely love. I've known Jamie and them guys for a long time. If you're into Hatebreed, you'll definitely like these guys. Check these guys out. Um, they've toured with Hatebreed many times. Very similar in style. Um, a little bit more of a very slight melodic type feel. Um, Similar vocals to Jamie Josta of Hatebreed. Very similar to Luke Kohler of Sing It All. Um, if you like I say, if you like the old school crossover, uh, you'll definitely like these guys. From New York, Queens, my boys. This is one of those top albums of all time. Marauder, Master Killer. Check them out. If you're not too familiar with them, look them up. You know, guys been doing this for a while, and they're still pushing it. You know, they're still going. Amazing guys, amazing album. Alright, I got a couple more. One of my favorite death metal albums by Obituary. That's what you gotta say. World Demise. Came out in '94. Amazing album. Definitely put this in their top 5 category catalog. This came out right after The Incomplete. Don't Care, Title Track, World Demise, Solid State, Paralyzing Lost, the ever popular Final Thoughts, with the opening, the shotgun being cocked back into boom. Great track. I can't say enough about Obituary. I've been a fan of these guys since the beginning. Actually, I had to go back one album, believe it or not. In between, Slowly and what you call it? Oh my God, Cause of Death. Oh my God, sorry. I had to go back to Slowly. No, they didn't slip by. I was, remember, at the run of time, I was just getting into death metal in like 88, 89, 90. I was more into the thrash, you know, back then. But then, like I said, Obituary's been one of my favorite death metal bands, if not the favorite, along, you know, that whole Florida scene. But some bands that actually are from up here, that are from Buffalo, that went down to Florida and now reside down there. But yeah, they became part of that whole Florida scene down there. The ever famous Morris Sound Studios. I think Scott Burns, another absolute incredible producer. It seems Scott Burns and Eric Rutan have their hands in a lot, especially Eric Rutan. He has his hands in a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff that, you know, Eric touches or Scott touches, it just explodes. You know, like I said, I've been into them for the very beginning. You know, I think they were one of the first bands that I, next to Possessed, and Carcass, and Napalm, 89, 90, you know, in that general range. You know, hearing them on the radio or whatever, like, you know, like the college radios that had their indie, you know, spots. KSOU had them on a couple times up here. You know, it was like the after 10 o'clock hour. It was like 10 to 2 in the morning. It was death metal and thrash. So that's how, you know, you would hear it, or you hear them on compilations. Again, with the fanzines going around, the magazines. You know, back then we didn't have like it is now with the internet, where it is at your fingertips, where you can find out who's shitting. You know, you know, and then, you know, 2 hours down the road. But yeah, I think it's one of the best Obituary albums You know, again, it's obituary. That's all I gotta say. You know, hard, grindy, amazing vocals, guitars. You know, the the other beast, name obituary. I got a couple more. All right, another hardcore band from New York. One of my favorite bands. Um, this came out '92. Life of Agony. River Runs Red. Their debut. Immense album. Uh, I saw them. I I got this album after I saw them for the first time. Um, they opened up for Typo Negative, and I think it was, I want to say Morbid Angel on this tour. Um, I didn't know who they were. First time seeing them, and they blew me away. The next day, I remember going to, it had to be like Strawberries Records or Graf Wadman or somewhere, in Connecticut, and getting this record. Great hardcore, top to bottom. There's inserts in between the songs about his life. Um, the lead singer, Keith Caputo, who I think goes now by the name of Katrina, I think her name is now. Her name. I'm sorry. Yeah, he had a change. Um, which, whatever. I don't judge people. Teach his own. Um, they're still doing Live Agony um, shows. They just put out a record couple of 2 years ago, I think it was, uh, called Scars. I believe I have it over here somewhere. Um, actually, it's right there. Um, that was their newer stuff. If you're not too, if you're familiar with Life Agony, you'll know what I mean when I say this. Their newer stuff is more melodic, more of a almost like a slight crossover feel to them. You know, a lot more. It's heavy, but toned down just a little bit. Whereas this album and their album Ugly are phenomenal albums. Phenomenal hardcore. As I said, the '90s put out some of the most incredible stuff, and hardcore was flourishing from '90 till, I would say, late '90s, maybe. Uh, Probably about '95, '96. Um, Hardcore was flourishing. They had a lot of these bands coming up, pushing them. Where music back then was changing. You had so much different bands coming from different directions. Um, and hardcore just stayed right there. They got more into that mainstream type feel of it. Bands started getting picked up for bigger shows, um, venues, and everything. But Live Agony, they fit right in with the hardcore scene. If you're into Sick of It All, Rest in Pieces, another hardcore band, Agnostic Front, um, things along that line. Marauder, I just mentioned them. Uh, Vision of Disorder, um, Gorilla Biscuits, Slapshot for that matter. You know, Life of Agony. Definitely, if you've never heard of them, check them out. You know, this is their first record. It's pure hardcore. Um, Not a bad track on this album, especially for a hardcore album. Um, this time, Underground, the Suicide Ballad, River Runs Red, through and through, my favorite song off this record. Bad Seed, My Eyes, a great power, great power ballads. Those two, especially uh, My Eyes, great heavy, very heavy hardcore power ballad. The Stand Remains, another heavy, very deep song, very deep heaviness. Definitely. method of groove and respect. It's basically about unity with people. You know, uh, Keith Caputo, Sal from Type O. Uh, Amazing man. Check them out. All right. All right. These next two, I saved, especially for the last. A lot of people, when I do these two, well, this next one, you're gonna say, "Huh?" Yeah. One of my favorite, if not in my top three favorite Judas Priest albums of all time, Juggulator. Yes, this is when Rob Halford left the band. I'm a huge Priest fan. Me and Rob Halford share the same birthday. oh, August 25th. Yeah, yeah, we share the same birthday. Me and the Middle God. Yeah, but I like this album. This with Ripper on it. Ripper Owens fit right in. He only did 2 records with Priest. He did this one, Demolition, which is another heavy album, and then they did like a live album. Um, this album is heavy. At this time when this album came out, this was the most heaviest album Priest did at that time, and in my opinion, it's still up there. Um, it was heavier. It was different. It I think it propelled Priest into that next phase of their career, where you had you attracted more people. I know a lot of people, a lot of diehard Priest fans, didn't like this album simply because of Ripper Owens. Uh, I think Ripper Owens is an amazing vocalist. If there was anybody that could fill in, that could take the place of Halford at that time, it was Ripper. I know I was a big skeptic when that happened. I was upset. I was sad. I was mad. You know, and that popped up on MTV. You know, about him leaving. Um, I thought Priest was over. You know, he went to do his side projects. There was things going on in the band at that time. You know, infights. You know, of course, when you get a band that's been around at that time, 30 some odd years, at that time, you're gonna have fights. Um, Hold on. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Um, a few of my favorite tracks off this record: uh, "Decapitate," "Burn in Hell," which is, I love that song. How heavy it is, and his screams on that album, his vocals, and the guitar work is just incredible. Um, "Brain Dead," "Bullet Train's" another one, amazing song. "Abductors," uh, you know, hitting on things that were happening. You know, um, basically waking parents up and guardians about keeping an eye on your kids. Uh, Bloodstained, "Dead Meat." It, you know, top to bottom, it was not a bad album. It was absolutely a very very good album. Like I said, it's definitely in my top. I would put it in my top 5 Priest albums, hands down. And Demolition is close. Um, like I said, a lot of people didn't, you know, a lot of people didn't want to, you know, hear somebody else singing in Priest. I'll be first to admit, I was, I was one of them. You know, big, big skeptic about it. You know, um, and then when Juggler dropped, I remember I went and bought it. I remember putting in my car CD player, and I think I pulled off to get gas or a pack of smokes or a cup of coffee or something. And I remember I'm listening to it. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And first thing I said was, this some bitch is heavy. And when I heard um, "Burn in Hell," that was it. That track alone set the set that album apart. Um, Granted, their new one, "Invisible Shield," for me personally, is album of the year. it's up there for album of the year. If you don't have their new one, get it. Invisible Shield by Priest, strong contender in my eyes, in my book, for album of the year. Hands down, no question about it. Their ones after Juggulator, I think, like I said, I think Juggulator propelled them into a area that, you know, got them heavier. Um, Priest had heavy albums, but this album set the. I think it took them, you know, to new heights. Um, uh, because in my opinion, the past three have been tremendous. Redeemer of Souls, love that album. Um, just so many, you know, their comeback. Oops. Their comeback albums were just phenomenal. Um, would I like to see Rob Halford perform more of these songs from this record and from Demolition? Yes. I know Ripper was giving them, you know, Ripper was giving them somewhat of a headache about it because he didn't want his material sang by Halford. I say, let him do it. You know, it's in my opinion, it's some of Priest's, you know, heaviest stuff they put out. You know, and some of the fans, you know, that had never seen it live, let him sing it. You know, is Ripper worried that Halford might put his own spin on it and make it his own? Maybe make it even better. You never know. But definitely, if you guys, you know, if you don't check out this album by Priest, I say it's still one of their best albums. Period. It's definitely, hands down, and I'll argue with anybody about this, it's definitely their heaviest album in their catalog. Probably, with the exception of the new one, it's heavy. It's extremely heavy. Me personally, I'm glad Halford's back where he belongs. The metal god is back. But you know, like a lot of bands, you got to step away for a little bit to come back and find yourself and take off again. So, but my opinion, Priest is back. Like I said, their new record, Invisible Shield, is an absolute candidate for album of the year. And I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Why? It's heavy. It's Priest. Alright, the next one has an anniversary. I've talked about these guys a little bit in the past, a couple streams. I'm going to be doing a double stream, or a double discography stream. Merciful Fate. The anniversary of Don't Break the Oath. The legendary Don't Break the Oath. One of the best death metal, black metal, thrash metal albums ever written. If you got this album, you know the songs. Come to the Sabbath, Dangerous Meeting, Nightmare, Desecration of Souls, The Oath, Gypsy, Welcome Prince of Hell. That album needs no introduction. I think Merciful Fate was and is some of the earliest darkened thrash metal around. You could also throw some darkened black metal into that mix. Merciful Fate had all the elements of it. You had thrash metal, you had a little bit of groove, you had some melodic in there on this record. You definitely had the element of death metal and black metal. King Diamond has been my favorite, up there with Halford, with Lemmy, a number of them. You know, with Dio, you know, Mike Howe, for that matter. Um, a lot of people going thinking King Diamond and Merciful Fate. Saying no, King Diamond is King Diamond. King Diamond is a King Diamond is a much more melodic, thrashy band. Heavy at times, yes. Merciful Fate is heavy most of the time, and also like I said, that darkened thrash, like a black metal, almost like a doomy, like a doom feeling also. So Merciful Fate combines a lot of different traits of metal all in one. Um, they're reissuing this. Um, it's supposed to be a big collector's pack that they're doing. They're gonna have the original recording of it. They're gonna have a reissue version of it. It's supposed to include like live performances. Incidentally, they just did this. They just played this entire album at Wacken. Um, I saw it might be on YouTube. They did the entire record as live, nonstop, insane. Hank Sherman is back again, the legendary Sherman. Um, what's his name from Fate's Warning? The guitarist from Fate's Warning is now in Merciful Fate. I forgot his name. Oh my god, that's in my tongue too. The bald head and the weird hairstyle. Forgot his name. This is probably the only time this will probably be the only time I ever do this. I forgot his name. He's from Fate's Warning, and he was also in Armored Saint. Oh my god, is that in my tongue? I'm sorry. I'm trying to look it up because it's gonna bother me now, and I know as soon as I end this stream, I'm gonna remember it. You got Mike Weed in there. Becky Waldwin is on bass. The other one, she's a touring bassist with him now. I totally forgot about that. Joey Vera. Joey Vera. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I was. It was racking my brain. Yes, he was in there. He was going back and forth, um, with Fate, Armored Saint, and Fate's Warning, because Fate's is coming out with a new record soon. Armored Saint is coming out with a new record soon. They're gonna be doing a full blown tour. Now with Merciful Fate getting back into the mix, King is working on the next Merciful Fate and King Diamond albums. So King Diamond's one of those guys, one of those musicians who is always busy with his bands. You know, it could be King Diamond, it could be Merciful Fate. Again, people say, well, if you hear King Diamond, you hear Merciful Fate. No. Sometimes when King Diamond show, you'll hear Merciful Fate songs. Yes, I agree with that, and vice versa. If it's just a Merciful Fate concert, he'll throw in a couple King Diamond songs, but it won't be the ones that you're normally hearing at a King show. I know a lot of people always said that. I'm like, King Diamond is different. King Diamond, every King Diamond album is a story that leads into the next. Like I said, King Diamond's more of a thrash band, melodic, heavy at times, some doom, but mostly melodic. It's a story. Whereas Merciful Fate, it's heavier and a little, sped up at times. Merciful Fate has all the elements. You have your thrash, you have your speed, you have your melodic, you have your uh, doomy type parts. You have your heavy parts, and you have your your slightly darkened, blackened death metal parts too in there. That's one thing about King that I love, how he, you know, he goes through his alter egos. Needless to say, but some of the earliest Merciful Fate stuff, in my opinion, um, can be considered some of the earliest black metal. Um, Nuns Have No Fun, Evil, um, Satan's Fall, for that matter, Black Mass. Um, there's just so many from his that very early Merciful Fate stuff. The EP, the beginning. Um, it's just early. It's just great Merciful Fate stuff. Like I said, they're working and King's working on a new King Diamond album. King's working on a new Merciful Fate record. So there's a lot going on that King's going on right now. You know, I would love to see King do a full, 2.5 hour show where, you know, hour of it is King, hour of it's Merciful Fate, and having Liv Lavia. She says she's not going to be doing this tour, but she's going to be doing the next one. As you know, she was doing his backing vocals, and I'm sure if you guys saw his some of his live DVDs, she's under the stairs on stage, but he has his stage set up. A lot of people say, "Oh, why is King using her for backing? You know, he's losing it." No, a lot of times King Diamond has used backing vocals, especially a female opera. She was in there full time. She was taking some time off. Becky Baldwin, I was doing bass. She's a touring bassist, but she's been in there continuously over the past 2 years now. She can also do backing vocals. But Liv, if you've seen her on those DVDs and actually seen him in concert, when he hits that note, she hits it with him. It makes it echo. It makes it sound insanely loud and clear. So I welcome it. You know, there's certain vocalists that can't pull it off, and King's one of those vocalists that can't pull it off. You know, he wants. I can honestly say, King Diamond is one of those musicians that's for the fans. You know, whereas you got a lot of them that say they're not. You know, where King is there for the fans. You know, he wants us, the fans, to be happy. I've been a King fan forever. You know, my favorite album by King Diamond, my personal favorite by King Diamond is Conspiracy. My Merciful Fates, Don't Break the Oath, and also Into the Unknown, and also 9 for that matter. I love the album 9. But yeah, again, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. I know this was all over the rails. Like I said, it was just albums I just grabbed from my collection, and I just went with it. And my fiance, Mrs. Metalhead Warrior, my partner in crime behind the scenes. If you go back to one of my streams where I did that pop-up vinyl stream, she's on there. She just started grabbing CDs and said, "Ooh, here's one. Here, take this." Ooh, one of her favorite bands is Behemoth and Metal Church. So she was, "Ooh, do that one. Do this one." So before I knew it, I had a stack of 20 CDs about yay big in front of me. That's why they were stacked on the side over here. I was trying to separate them so I get to them easier. But I want to thank you guys for your support. If you like this type of stuff, please headbang that like button, smash it for me, subscribe, share my channel, keep that metal flag rolling, keep it going, stay hard, stay heavy, stay metal, take care of yourselves, Be safe. Again, I might be doing another stream in a little bit after I put this one up. I might just do a quick spin around of my studio so you guys can see how you know how they set up and how it goes to the collection for you. Again, Midas. I think it was Midas Music. I keep forgetting people's names today. Yeah, Metal Miners. Again, thank you for the tapes and the stickers, the keychain. Follow Metal Miners. Also, Classy Metal, Heavy Metal Journal. There's a bunch. S&T Young. There's a bunch of people. I'm probably forgetting people that I should have named. You, again, if you like what I'm doing, check my channel out. You'll see a bunch of other people that I'm doing that I follow that are awesome. Again, have a great day. Stay safe. I appreciate you guys coming in. Again, smash that like button. Share my channel, please. Thanks for subscribing. I'm getting up there. I'm pushing it to the limits right now. I'm doing what I want to do and just letting it go. Feel free to please leave comments and feedback for me about your favorite albums, what you liked about the show, what you didn't like, things I could do better, things like that. Like I said, I'm just starting doing this. I love doing it, so smash that like button, drop your comments. This is the Bulldog again, Mr. Metalhead Warrior NY. Subscribe, smash that like button. Stay safe. If you're gonna do something, you know what I say, make it count. The Bulldog says I'm out. Metal forever.